Hi there. Welcome to part 1 of the massive open online course focused on web components. In part 1, we're going to cover the aims, requirements, and structure of the MOOC. You'll be introduced to the web component specification and how it relates to Oracle, and in particular to JET. And finally, you're going to see how you can prepare for part 2 of the MOOC. The focus of the MOOC is the W3C web component specification. We will spend some time understanding what it is about and why it is relevant. We will focus on the context of Oracle and in particular, of course, JET. You will see the structure of web components. You will learn how a web component fits together, how to integrate it into an application, and you will spend quite some time developing web components yourself. By the end of the MOOC, you'll be very comfortable with the concepts around web components and be ready to implement the ideas within your own applications. What are the requirements for taking this MOOC? What are the assumptions that we have made about you in putting it together? First of all, the assumption is that you've done the earlier MOOC. It's still available at oracle.com/go/jet and provides everything for understanding and getting started with JET. We assume that you understand and have worked with the OJET command line interface, that you've used the cookbook, you've set up some applications, you've done some basic development work in creating JET web or mobile applications. We are not going to explain basic concepts again. We assume that you're familiar with all of them. We also assume that you've installed JET 6.0, which is the latest release of JET, and that you've set up a relevant editor or IDE to help you create JET web and mobile applications. Or at least, as always, you will use the command line interface to set up your JET application, and then you will open it into the editor or IDE of your choice and work on the code there. In short, this is not a beginner's course. We assume that you have all kinds of prior background and knowledge and that you have done work with JET already. What is the structure of the MOOC? Just like in the previous MOOC, we are focused on providing you with short YouTube clip-based entry points for further learning. We start with the introduction, which we are doing right now. In part 2, we will give you a hello world scenario to get you started with a web component and to understand its structure. We will then follow with some parts focused on the various aspects of a web component. In particular, these are attributes, properties, slots, events, and methods. You will learn how to translate web components into different human languages, and we will wrap up the MOOC with 2 use cases. The first focused on CRUD development by means of web components, and the other focused on the visual builder and the relevance of web components to VB and also into how you can integrate web components into VB. Finally, we'll wrap up and summarize what we have done in the MOOC and set you up for implementing those ideas that you have learned in your own contexts, in your own web applications and your own mobile applications. By the end of this MOOC, you will have a really solid understanding and be able to create and use web components yourself. In the development of JET, we believe that following standards and specifications is extremely important whenever possible, especially in the context of enterprise applications. The W3C web component specification is one of these standards, with the potential of enabling a larger vision of building and consuming reusable components across a team of developers and even across organizations throughout the industry. Oracle itself is embracing the W3C web component specification to provide a consistent way of interoperating with and extending Oracle products from all corners of the company. For example, imagine the power of being able to create a JET web component that can be reused across Oracle's PaaS, SaaS, and database tools like Apex without changing your code. In the same way, any other application with its client-side developed by means of JET can benefit from these advantages too. The JET cookbook, with which you are already familiar, contains one section dedicated to web components. These web components can be directly downloaded from the cookbook and installed into VB or installed into your own application based on Jet. Imagine the value of being able to reuse these flip cards, for example, in your own application without needing to write a single line of code. By importing this flip card into your application, you'll be able to use a custom element in your code called demo card. And this is precisely what this MOOC is focused on. How to create reusable components such as these flip cards, how to share them with others, and how to integrate them into your applications. Now that you have an overview of the MOOC, and now that you know what we have in store for you, please prepare by looking at the W3C Web Component specification. Also take a look at the cookbook and the developer guide, find the sections dealing with web components, and orientate yourself around the basic concepts that are presented there. We will of course go into a lot of detail throughout the MOOC, but it would be helpful if you would already start exploring them. With that, thank you very much for taking part in the MOOC, and see you in part 2.